Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. B. Sureka Reddy, Department of ECE, Assistant Professor working in the Department of ECE at Institute of Aeronautical Engineering, Tundigarh, Hyderabad. So, in today's topic, let us discuss about the performance matrix, performance characteristics of a particular instrument in the measurement process, which are static and dynamic characteristics. So, as today we have glanced like what are the different static characteristics that has to be looked into so as to decide how the particular instrument is, whether it is static in nature or dynamic in nature. And by looking at this particular performance characteristics, that is static and dynamic characteristics, we'll know the quality, how good is the particular instrument is, like whether we can use a particular instrument for the measurement process or not. That thing can be decided by using this particular, by finding and by looking at the particular static characteristics over here. So now we have a wide range of static characteristics which we have started looking into. So first one is range, which we have already discussed yesterday, and span is also completed. Now we are looking at accuracy parameter, static characteristics. So range can be defined as a measure of the instrument between the lowest and highest reading it can measure. And span is defined as the algebraic difference between upper and lower range values an instrument can measure. So these things which we have looked at today, and the span is equals to x2 minus x1, where x2 is nothing but the highest point of calibration and x1 is nothing but the lowest point of calibration. The next one is accuracy. Accuracy is basically a characteristics of a particular instrument which is used to define like as the closeness of indicated value to the true value of the quantity being measured. That is, the true value is the actual value which the instrument intended to measure the particular value. But after measuring the particular value, it might be varying slightly. That is, the measured value might not be equal to the true value sometimes. So this particular accuracy parameter, it says how close is the indicated value to the particular true value of the quantity being measured. So it indicates the maximum likely departure of the indicated value from the true value. And here the accuracy of an instrument is specified as an uncertainty in the measured value. That is, whenever we measure a particular value in an instrument, if there is an instrument and if we are measuring the particular value, and there is a true value initially, and the output will be the measured value. So now, if there is any change in the process of measuring the particular value, actually intended value has to be 10 volts, and now the measured value, it might be showing as 10.1 volts, for example. Then both true value and the measured value might not be same. So that particular accuracy of an instrument is specified as an uncertainty in the measured value. So 0.1 is the uncertainty over this place. That is, by taking the difference between the measured value and the true value, we can find the uncertainty in the measured value. That is like varying with respect to the particular accuracy. True value over here. So, for instance, like yesterday itself, we have talked about this particular accuracy of an instrument. Let us take another example. So now, previously, while we are discussing about range and span of an instrument, at that time, what we have looked at the temperature by using a particular thermometer, how the values are being measured by this particular thermometer. That is, minus 30 degrees to 100 degrees is the range of this particular thermometer. Now, for example, the intended value that is to be measured is 70 degrees Celsius, for example. So now this is the true value for us. And for instance, if the accuracy of an instrument is stated to be plus or minus 1%, it's already stated that the instrument has this particular characteristic, that is, the accuracy is plus or minus 1%. Now it implies that the maximum departure of the reading from the true value may account to a maximum amount of plus or minus 1% of the span of the instrument. Now if we look at the span of the particular instrument, that is given by span is equals to 100 degrees centigrade. That is highest value of the calibration minus 30 degrees. That is nothing but the lowest value of the calibration value. So now if we take this particular value, the span value is equals to 130 degrees Celsius. Now after getting this one, accuracy of 100 degrees Celsius we have to see. So this is the range, like up to which value it can measure. It is from minus 30 degrees to 100 degrees. So in this span, in this particular 130 degree span, we will be having, we will be taking this particular plus or minus 1% into consideration. And in this particular span, the accuracy of 100%, 100 degrees Celsius, this is the highest range of a particular instrument over there. So now if we take this particular accuracy of 100%, which is like here it is plus or minus 1%. So now if we take this thing into account, so plus or minus 1% of 100 degrees Celsius is equals to 0.01 or 0.1, we can say. 1% of 100 is nothing but 0.1 over here. Sorry, 0.01. So now when we intend to measure a particular value, that is 70 degrees Celsius, this has to be the output of my instrument over there. So now if I look at this particular 70 degrees Celsius, now the value that is being measured will be 70 degrees Celsius plus or minus 0.01. That means it can be 70 degrees plus 0.01 or 70 degrees minus 0.01. So two values it can measure. Either it can be higher than 70 degrees Celsius or lower than 70 degrees. So the accuracy parameter majorly it tells how close is the particular measured value. So this is nothing but the measured value over here. How close is the particular measured value to the true value that has to be measured over here. So in this way, by knowing the how much accurate is a particular instrument, by using this particular accuracy of the particular instrument, we can find, we can know how good is an instrument. And also so if it is said that it is 1% plus or minus 1% accurate, this particular instrument is plus or minus 1% accurate, then directly if the particular measurement I got it as 69.99% or 70.01% degrees Celsius. Even after getting this particular output also, I can assume that okay, by looking at these values, I can say okay, it might be near to 70. And by looking at this value also, I can say it might be near to 70. So this assumption can be made only if I know that particular instrument is about plus or minus 1% accurate. So by knowing the accuracy of an instrument, I can also get back my true value while we are doing any measurement process in any circuitry or in any other control system processes. So accuracy can be measured as a percentage of span or percentage of scale range. Percentage of scale range or percentage of span, just now we have said. That is, scale range means like it is from minus 30 degrees to 100 degrees Celsius. Span means percentage of 130 degrees Celsius previously. So the final measured value plus or minus percentage of the instrument span will be the value. So in the previous case, plus or minus 1% is the percentage of the instrument span. That's why the measured value, whenever we are taking any measurement, it will be, measured value will be, if it is 70.01, it is the measured value, then it is plus or minus percentage of the instrument span. Percentage of the instrument span means here plus or minus 1%, plus or minus 1% of 100 degrees Celsius. That is a range. That is the range of the particular thermometer which it can measure. So now if we look at this one, it can be 70.02 degrees Celsius or 70 degrees Celsius. So like this, you can find the accuracy as a percentage of span or percentage of a scale of range. Accuracy as percentage of true value or percentage of reading. That is measured value plus or minus percentage of the measured value itself. And next one is a point accuracy, where the measured value is plus or minus uncertainty in a particular unit. So accuracy is the uncertainty in the measured value. So by using these particular equations, in whichever the case, if the percentage of the instrument span is available for us, then directly we can measure how the final value, like how good is a particular instrument. And if we have the percentage of measured value directly, then at that time you can measure as a percentage of true value over there. And point accuracy, in this case, you can find if we already know how much is uncertain in the particular units. So for example, here, if I say that, okay, by looking at the units, it is uncertain with 0.01 units. At that time, directly we can say, okay, that can be 69.9 or 70 degrees over there. So by knowing the uncertainty in units also, we can find the accuracy over there. So let us consider an example to understand this particular accuracy parameter in a manner. Okay, so now we are going to have a circuitry or any measurement process is there, where there is a voltmeter with a range of 0 to 20 volts. And one of the measurement was specified as 10 plus or minus 0.2 volts. Express a measurement with accuracy as a percentage of true value and accuracy as a percentage of span. Now, when we look at this one, here the percentage of this is nothing but the 10 plus or minus 0.2 volts is nothing but the point accuracy. Point accuracy. So now here the percentage of full scale deflection or the percentage of instrument variation, like how like up to which point the particular deflection can take place. So if I take an emitter here, so this is there is a pointer over here. So here the pointer can point any of the values here. Okay. So now if it points the highest value, this is the highest full scale deflection in a particular instrument, in any instrument, if we consider where there is a pointer over here. So percentage of the full scale deflection is, or percentage of instrument we have to take into consideration. So how much full scale deflection is there? So here the span is equals to 20 minus 0. That is highest value, that is x2, lowest calibration, that is x1 with respect to the meter. So I have a voltmeter where the lowest calibration is 0 volts and the highest calibration is 20 volts. So now with respect to this one, the span will be 20 minus 0 volts, that is equals to 20 volts. Now if we take the particular in the previous case we have seen different formulas, right? So if we take those things into consideration, then it will be 10 plus or minus percentage of the span, that is span by 0.2, sorry, here it is 0.2. So here it is 0.2 divided by 20 into 100, that is equals to 10 plus or minus 1% volts, 1% total volts, 1% of the value over here. So like this we can find the accuracy, like in terms of true value and in terms of accuracy as a percentage of span, we can find it in this way. Coming to the next case, accuracy is mentioned in terms of scale range is constant for whole range of instrument. Accuracy mentioned in terms of true value changes depending on the true value. So now let's take a range of values. So previously we have found in the percentage of span how we are getting the value, that is 10 plus or minus 1% of the volts, 1% volts over there. So now let us consider in the range of values. So here in the range of value means it will consist of all the values, that is 0 to 20 volts. Now let us take the range of values to be here readings. If I consider the readings, so now let us consider the first reading to be 1 volt for example, 1 volt, second reading to be 5 volts and third reading to be 10 volts likewise, and next the reading. So in the case 1 we are considering the accuracy is equals to plus or minus 1% of full scale deflection. Okay. So now as I consider this one, now let us find the value. So now the reading is 1 volt actually, but with respect to this, how we are going to find it is 1 plus or minus 1% of full scale deflection. How much is the full scale deflection? 20 volts is the full scale deflection. That is the highest value that can be acquired in this particular measurement process, because the voltmeter range is from 0 to 20 volts. So final highest value that it can achieve is nothing but the full scale deflection, that is nothing but here 20 volts over here. So now if with respect to the first reading, now here 1 plus or minus 1% of full scale deflection, that is 20 volts. That is equals to 1 plus or minus 0.02. So like this we can find. So here the value will be 1 plus or minus 0.02. So likewise in the next case, when the reading is 5 volts, then at that time the accuracy will be 5 plus or minus 1% of 20 volts. So again the same thing, it will be 1 plus or minus, here actually 1% of 20 volts means 20 by 100 actually. So once we divide it, we'll be getting the value to be 0.2 actually. So it is to be 0.2 actually. So here also it will be 5 plus or minus 0.2 volts. 5 plus or minus 0.2 volts. Likewise. So now if the reading is 10 volts, at that time it will be 10 plus or minus 1% of 20 volts. So that is equals to 10 plus or minus 0.2 volts. Likewise. So now depending upon the reading, for a range of values. Now here we are considering only 1 volt, 5 volt, 10 volts, as we can consider 15 volts. Then if it is 15 volts, the value will be, accuracy value will be 15 plus or minus 1% of 20 volts. That is 15 plus or minus 0.2 volts. Again, if we consider 20 volts, then again the same thing. 20 plus or minus 1% of 20 volts, that is 20 plus 0.2 volts. That will be the final value. So actually, 20 plus or minus 0.2 volts you might not be achieving, because the highest deflection is only 20 volts over there. So if it is 20 plus or minus 0.2 volts, then definitely it will be 20 minus 0.2 volts only. Because 20 plus 0.2 volts won't be possible, because the highest deflection in the voltmeter is only 20 volts. Okay. So like this, we can find the accuracy value over a range. So previously, when we are considering a span, there only for the particular span, that is from the minus 30 degrees to 130 degrees, we have just considered only the entire span, and we can find the accuracy in terms of span, that is 10 plus or minus 1% of full scale deflection over there. And here when we consider the range of values at that time, what we'll be having is accuracy is equals to actual reading plus or minus 1% of the full scale diffraction. Full scale diffraction value is nothing but 20 volts. So every time we have to find if the reading that is to be achieved is 1 volts, then the accuracy will be 1 plus or minus 1% of 20 volts. Then if the reading is 5 volts, then it is 5 plus or minus 1% of the 20 volts. Now, likewise, let us move on to the next case also, that is case 2. Let's look at that one. So in case 1, the accuracy is taken to be plus or minus 1% of 20 volts. That is full scale deflection over here. In case 2, let us consider it to be 1%. That is accuracy is equals to 1% of true value. True value. So now, if I take this particular equation into consideration, previously accuracy is the plus or minus 1% of the full scale deflection. So as it is a full scale deflection, this value won't be changed. It will be 20 volts only. That value, that plus or minus 1% of full scale, which is 0.2 volts, we won't be changing in each of the cases. Whereas here, it is plus or minus 1% of the true value. So what is the true value over here? With respect to 1 volt, true value is 1 volt itself. So here the value will be 1 plus or minus 1% of 1 volt. 1 volt, which is nothing but 1 by 100. That is equal to 0.01. So here it will be 1 plus or minus 0.01 volts. Likewise, in the next case here it will be 5 plus or minus 1% of what is the true value for this particular reading? That is 5 volts. It is 5 volts itself. That is equals to 5 plus or minus 0.05 volts. So likewise, here in the case of 10 volts, it will be 10 plus or minus 1% of 10 volts. That is equals to 10 plus or minus 0.1 volts. So in this way, we can find the accuracy of a particular instrument. That is like if it is in terms of true value, percentage of true value, 1% of true value, then the values will be like this. And if it is measured in the terms of the full scale deflection, that is plus or minus 1% of the full scale deflection, the values will be differing. These values will be 0.2, irrespective of the which type of reading we are going to measure. So it completely depends upon the which type of measurement process, which type of accuracy measurement process we are using at the particular place point. So the next static characteristic that is very, very important for a particular instrument is precision. So precision can be defined as a degree of refinement with which a measured value is stated. That is like, see, degree of refinement with which a measured value is stated. So degree of refinement means like whether it is going and selecting an accurate, it's not like accurate actually. Accuracy and precision are different. So precision means like degree of refinement means whether it is giving the same value over a period of time. Like even after continuing the experimental process multiple times, even at that time also, if you are getting same type of values as the output, say at least nearby values we are getting as the same output, then we can say it is precise actually. We can say it is a precise. Precise means like hitting the point or getting the same value. So if in a measurement process, if I have 4 volts that is to be measured, then every time if it is coming as 4.02, 4.01 or 3.99. So in this way, if we are getting the values, then I can say these values are precise over there. Okay. So in practice, the readings will be clustered around a value in random manner. The more readings fall very close to the value, the more precise the instrument is. So let us take an example in order to understand like what is accuracy and what is precision in detail. Okay. Now, once look at these 3 examples. Now let us take an example where gun shooting is being done, and this is the target. This is the particular target where it has to hit. So the center where the center is there here. This is the particular target that has to be hit. The bullet has to be hit. So now once we look at the first figure or a first case where the bullet is hit at multiple points, but we can say that it is a bit around the intended point. This is the intended point. So these values are, I can't say these are not accurate actually. So these are a bit accurate, like at least they are coming nearby this particular value. So now in this case, what I can say is it is accurate but not precise. That is here, the values which are coming around this one, they have a bit of variation in between this. See here, once you look at these 2 point values, they are not precise. That's because they are not coming nearby each other. So rather than that, I can say these points are closer to the center, but these points are not closer to each other. Okay, so here like it is being hit at multiple position, but it is not near to each other. So here, if it is not near to each other, that if the values are very, very far apart from each other, then I can say it is not precise but accurate. That is, it is having some accuracy, that it is around this particular circle. So here it is around this circle and it is accurate, but it is not precise because the values, all the points which is being hit at multiple positions, these are not nearer to each other. Rather than they are like somewhat far from each other. Now, moving on to the next case, where here we can't say this particular situation is accurate because it is nowhere near the center value. Actually, my intended value is here. Actually, my intended spot is this one. The bullet has to hit this particular position, but rather than it is hitting at other position. But look at this points where the bullet has hit. By looking at these points, I can say, okay, all these points are hitting near to each other. They're not nearer to the original spot where it has to be hit. But rather than that, all these spots are nearer to each other. So now what I can say in this case is here, it is not accurate. This particular case is not accurate, but it is more precise. That is, all the readings are nearby each other. It's not reading actually. It's all the bullet points where it is hit are nearer to each other, but they are far from the particular actual intended value. That's why it is not accurate but precise. Okay. So now if it see here in the first case, what is the phenomenon? Actually, all the points are here are nearer to the original point comparatively, but here they are not nearer to each other. That's why it's not precise but accurate. But in the second case, they are nearer to each other. That's why these are precise but not accurate, because these are far away from the intended value over here. Now, in the next case, when we look at the next case, okay, so next person might be hitting this target over here. So now the target is here, but the bullets which have been hit are random at different positions. They are nowhere nearer the target over here. That's why in this type of in this experiment, I can say that these points are not accurate also. And also when we look at the precision of these points also, still we can say these are not precise because they are nowhere nearer to each other. That's why we can say that this particular experimental process or the measurement process here, these are not accurate or not precise also. And now moving on to the last case where the points are hit very nearer to the target. Target is at the center. Here, whatever the gunshots are there, they are moving like they are more accurately nearer to the particular target. So that's why I can say these are accurate. And now coming to the precision caliber, whether they are precise or not, yes, they are precise because all the points where it is hit, all these points are nearer to each other. That's why last case can be said to be accurate and precise. So that's why when we look at accuracy and precision, see, even if it is not intended value which has to occur, that is, even if it doesn't go and hit at the particular target, still we can say it is precise but not accurate. Now when we look at the accuracy, it might not be precise but still it can be accurate sometimes. So now this is the difference between the accuracy and precision. Now let us look at an electronic process where the actual, see, for the experiment to measure a voltage in circuit. Okay, now there is an experiment where the voltage value has to be measured. So now the actual value that has to be measured is 4.3 volts. Now different persons will be doing in different ways, right? So here, depending upon the different passive elements or any other elements they are considering in the circuit, each person might be getting different values. Now let us say, for example, there is person A, but that is experiment A, experiment B, experiment C, experiment D is there. So in each of the experiments, the intended task is to measure the voltage in a circuit, which has to come as 4.3 volts, which is nothing but actual value of the true. Theoretically, when we calculate the voltage that has to occur is a 4.3 volts. Now, after conducting these particular experiments, let's see how the instrument is giving the outputs. Now, look at the experiment A. Here, once we look at this particular experiment A here, now, this values 4.524 is first value, 4.523, 4.525, 4.526 are the values. Now, when we look at these values here, okay, by looking at these values, I can say that, okay, these values are nearer to each other because see here, the values are up to 4.2, all the values are same. Only in the third place, like after the decimal, only the third position, like third place, after this place only the values are being made. So I can say these are more precise, that is more nearer to each other. All these values are more nearer. That is why it is precise. That is why this particular experiment is precise. But the values which we got in this particular experiment, are they accurate? By looking at the actual value which has to be coming as the output, that is nothing but 4.3 volts. By looking at this output voltage, I can say definitely these are not accurate because my intended value is 4.3 volts and you got in this experiment we got it as 4.524, but then the variation is about 0.2 volts over there, which is not intended for us over here. That's why we can say this is not accurate, but basically it is a precise experiment over there. Now coming to the next experiment where we are measuring different values. Now look at these values. It is 4.016, 4.137, 4.541, 5.104. And by looking at this experiment, like whether these are these nearer to the actual value? No, these are not nearer to the actual value. So basically these are not accurate. Okay. So now look at the values, whether they are nearer to each other. Whether there is any similarity between the values over here? No. These are not even nearer to each other. That's why I can say this in this particular experiment, the particular measurement process is both not accurate and not precise also. And now in coming on to the experiment C. Now look at these values here. Here, first value is 4.25, second value is 4.31, 321, 4.295, 4.342. Now, while we look at all these values, these are nearer to, like comparatively to the other experiment, these are nearer to 4.3 volts, which has to be measured, which is the actual value that is to be measured by the particular circuit. Now, by looking at this, I can say, okay, this particular values are accurate, but by looking at these values, I can't say, see here it is 4.2 here, whereas here it is 4.3. And here it is again 4.29 and here it is 4.34. By looking at these values, I can say these are not nearer to each other. That's why it is not precise but accurate over here. And finally, in the last process here, once we look at these values here, 4.301, 4.299, 4.302, 4.29, all these values are nearer to the, are nearer to the 4.3 volts. And when we look at these values also, 4.30 and 4.299 are nearer to each other definitely. And also 4.3019 and 4.302 are nearer to each other. So I see even the variation is also in points of 0.01 or 0.02 values like this. So that's why we can say this particular experiment D is both accurate and precise. So this is the way we have to know like whether the particular experimental process is whether accurate or precise or both. So every time we can't say like if the particular experimental process is accurate, then we can't say it is precise also. Sometimes it can be precise and sometimes it cannot be it cannot be precise and also accurate and not accurate depending upon the values or the scenario over there. We have to find whether it is both accurate or precise or whether it is not accurate and not precise. We have to find based upon the values over. So next one is a static error in the static analysis. So it is defined as an algebraic difference between the value indicated by the output of the measuring instrument and the true value of the quantity presented to the input. So here, whatever the value is indicated by the output of the measurement system, which is nothing but a measured value, and the true value of the quantity presented to the input, that is nothing but the true value. So now, if you take the absolute static error or the static error, the value, it is nothing but the algebraic difference, that is the measured value minus true value over here. So now, it does not precisely indicate the accuracy of instruments. It doesn't precisely indicate only the accuracy of the particular instrument. So now, if we look at the absolute static error, that is nothing but static error is equals to measured values minus true value. Now, if you look at this one. Here, the static value, it is positive if the measured value is greater than the true value. Definitely, right? If this is greater than true value, then definitely we'll be getting a positive value. And it is negative if the measured value is less than the true value. So this is a scenario where we can get the negative error or the positive error. Now let's look at the relative static error. So which is nothing but the absolute static error by the true value. So absolute static error can be taken as delta A by true value T. So now what is the delta A value here? This is nothing but measured value minus true value by true value. So now let us denote it by true value as AT and a measured value as AM. So now it will be AM minus AT by AM. So now if we take this, if we write these equations again, now here it will be delta. This one is delta A equals to 1. Delta A equals to here delta A equals to AM minus AT. Now if I rewrite this equation, then AT is equals to AM minus delta A. And now looking at this particular equation, we can also rewrite this equation. So where it is equals to AM AT can also be written as AT equals to AM minus ER into AT. So now here let us take the relative error, static error ER equals to 1 minus AM by AM. It will be cancelled. So it will be AT by AM. So now again, if we just multiply and we rewrite the particular equation, then AT can be AM minus ER into AT, because here delta A is equals to ER into AT over here. That's why we can get this particular value. So still we can rewrite the equation once again. Let me rewrite the equation once. So here it will be delta A by AT, which is equals to ER, and here AT equals to ER into, or delta A equals to, delta A equals to ER into AT. So now just take this equation and substitute over here. Then we will get AM minus ER into AT. And also this ER value can also be written as AM minus AT by AM. AT. That is equals to AM by AT minus 1. So these are the two values over here. So here AT can also be written as in terms of AM minus ER into AT. And also even here also we can just read out the equation. But final equation for the true value, that is AT equals to AM minus ER into AT. Now we will take this term to the left hand side. So AT into AT plus this minus becomes plus here, AT into ER plus AT, that is equals to AM. That implies, now here AT is common, so I can write AT into 1 plus ER equals to AM. So now after rewriting all these equations, so here, so finally what we can get is AT equals to 1 plus ER, AM by 1 plus ER. AM plus 1 plus ER. This is the final true value which we can get. Like if we know the static error or relative static error value over here, then from that one we can find the, like definitely we'll get the measured value. But once we know the relative static error value, then directly we can find the, with this one we can find the true value. So true value sometimes like it can be seen in the measurement process step. This is intended to be measured actually. But what we got the output is the measured value. So when we know the ER value, that is static error value, relative static error value, we already know at that time. If by looking at the reading in the particular instrument, we can directly know how is the, like how much is the value of this particular AT. And with respect to ER, now if ER equals to 0, then directly AT equals to AM. So every time we'll make sure that the particular relative error or the static error in this particular any of the instrument, we'll try to make it equals to 0, so that the true value is equals to the measured value or the measured value equals to the true value. This is our intended case. So that's why we'll try to make sure that this particular ER value is very less, as less as possible, as much less as the possible value we'll try to make it up. That's now here by from this equation we can say that AT equals to AM by 1 plus ER, and by putting the ER value as less as possible, we can get AT is approximately equals to the particular AM value. That is nothing but AM value, that is measured value, will be approximately equal to the true value that is to be measured by a particular instrument. Now let us look the next parameter here. That is 1 minute. That is nothing but the repeatability. It reflects the closeness of agreement of a group of output signals obtained by the same observer from the same input quantity using the same methods and same apparatus under the same operating environment, but over a short time span. So now while we are doing any experiment in our lab, so at that time we can have a circuitry. Now for the circuitry, what we'll do, we'll give almost same inputs we'll be giving. Once we fix the particular passive elements in a particular instrument or any circuit, we won't change majorly that. So now once the circuit is designed, we are starting to work on a breadboard or any other board. So now I have started this experiment. Now here, whatever the changes I'm going to make in this particular circuit, or whatever the inputs I am giving to the particular circuit. So it will be changing a bit if the input is not being changed. If the input is not being changed, then the output won't change. If input is not changing, or if the input is changing over for a group of values, then the output will also not change. Will not change actually. Output will not change. That is, if I have designed a gain of an amplifier with a gain of 10 volt, okay. So now if I give 1 volt, it will be giving an output of 10 volts. And if I give 2 volts, the output will be given as 20 volts. Now look at these values. So here, I can say this is the repeatability of the particular instrument, and this is the intended or desirable characteristics of a particular instrument. That is, here it is a closeness of agreement of a group of output signals obtained by the same observer. That is, the person who is observing these outputs are also should be the same. The environmental condition should be the same, and also the apparatus which we are using this for measuring this particular values with a particular circuit. The circuit should be the same. At that time, if we get a close agreement, that is here, once we look at the both the input and output, we can say that the gain is 10 here. And even by looking at this one, I can say that gain is 10 here. So this is the agreement and the closeness with respect to the group of output signals. So now if this scenario is being repeated, okay, there are no changes in the process of the measurement over a time span. Over some time, I'm going to measure this one. For example, for 1 hour or for 2 hours continuously we are measuring, or for some days we are measuring, still the output is not being changed majorly, and it is changed only with respect to the gain. Okay, only when we are changing an input, the output is changing with respect to the gain, and the change is not in any other way. So now instead of getting 20 volts, if you are getting 30 volts, then it is wrong. That is not the repeatability for us over there. So now if we get this type of outputs, then I can say that my particular instrument has a repeatability capability over there. So now this is a desirable characteristics of a particular instrument which we want. That's why we have to look at this particular repeatability, whether the particular instrument is repeatable in nature or not. Now let's look on to the next one, that is reproducibility. It is the closeness with which the same value of the input quantity is measured at different times and under different conditions of usage of the instrument by different instruments. Now here, same value of input quantity measured at different times under different conditions of usage of instrument and by different. So previously in the repeatability case, how we are checking the whether the particular instrument is good or not, that is based upon the we are putting all the circumstances same, and the observer is also same, and the instrument is also same, that is apparatus is also same, and then we are getting different values. Then from that we are saying okay, this particular instrument is desirable or not. Now in this reproducibility characteristics, we are checking the closeness with which the same value of the input quantity is measured at different times. Now, whatever the voltage of a circuit I want to measure a voltage output. Now, whenever I want to measure this particular voltage as an output, here I am measuring initially using a voltmeter. Okay. Now I am taking this voltmeter and I am putting in another scenario. Okay. Here the temperature might be less than 30 degrees, and now I am going to take the same circuitry, and the voltmeter I am going to use in different temperature conditions or in other different scenarios. And next, if I am using I am using a voltmeter, then I am using a multimeter, for example. Okay. Now by using this voltmeter and by using this multimeter, if I get the same value at both of the times, then I can say the particular reproducibility characteristics of the particular instrument is met over. Okay. So now if it is to be the value which is to be measured is 10 volts, I am getting 10.1 volts here, and here also I am getting 10.11 volts, for example. And I can say this particular instrument, this particular input quantity is which is being measured, that is the circuit with which we are measuring over the particular voltage output. Here it is not changing with the apparatus we are using, which it is not changing with respect to the instrument we are using over here. That is nothing but the reproducibility characteristics. Next one is the resolution. It is the smallest change in the input quantity that causes a detectable change in its output. If the input is slowly increased from some arbitrary value, it will be found that the output does not change at all until a certain increment is exceeded. This increment is known as a resolution. Now here, any smallest change in the input quantity cause a detectable change in its output, then it is the smallest change. Now if there is a smallest change of 0.1 degrees, okay, then the particular scale it moves, okay, because in a thermometer scale, here we will be having a pointer, okay. Whenever there is a variation of 0.05 degrees Celsius, it won't change, and whenever there is a change at least of 0.1 degrees, then only it will be pointing it to the next point. So this is nothing but the resolution of the particular thermometer over there. Here, if the input is slowly increased from some arbitrary value, it will be found that the output does not change at all until a certain increment is exceeded. That is, until it exceeds this particular 0.1 degrees Celsius, in this case, it won't change the pointer reading until and unless it changes this point. Or even if it is 0.08 degrees Celsius also, if there is a change in the temperature, still it won't point to the next value. Rather, it will be the same value. Only when it reaches or exceeds this particular 0.1 degrees Celsius, then only it points to the next value. So let's take an example in order to understand this particular resolution parameter. A moving coil voltmeter has a uniform scale of 100 divisions. The full scale deflection reading is 200 volts, and 1/10 of a scale division can be estimated with a fair degree of certainty. Now determine the resolution of the instrument in volts. So now one scale division can be taken. Here it is a total number is 100 divisions. Now the total full scale reading is 200 volts. Now if we take this a particular meter is the, now here the meter highest point is full scale deflection is 200 volts. 200 volts. Now each point, and the total number of divisions on this particular meter is 100 divisions. So I have to know like one scale or one point here is how many divisions. So now I can say one scale division equals to 200 volts by total number of divisions. That is 2 volts. So each point shows 2 volts. Next one is 4 volts. Next one is 8 volts. Like this, it will be moving till 200 volts. Now the smallest change in voltage is 2 volts by 10. That is 1/10 of a scale division can be estimated with a fair degree of certainty. That is only when it reaches of a 1/10 of a particular scale of the value. Here, what is the scale division is 2 volts. Only when it reaches the 1/10 of the 2 volts, then only there will be change in the pointer. Pointer deflection moves from here to here. Only when there is a 1/10 scale of division. Okay, now here the resolution will be 2 volts by 10. So whenever there is a slight change, that is like whenever, see here, it might be 2 volts here, point, and here it might be 4 volts. Now, whenever there is a change of 0.2 volts in the measurement process, then it will be the pointer, instead of pointing here, it might be slightly deflecting in between. So with that meter deflection, the pointer deflection will take place only when there is a variation of smallest change of 0.2 volts. And this is nothing but the resolution of a particular moving coil voltmeter which we are using over. So this 0.2 volts is the resolution of this particular moving coil meter instrument. Next static characteristic is sensitivity. It is defined as a ratio of change in output signal to a change in the input quantity. That is, static sensitivity is given by infinitesimal change in output by infinitesimal change in the input. That is delta Q naught by delta I. Now, if you look at this particular first graph here, you can see that the graph is input quantity versus output quantity over here. With respect to the input, the output is changing linearly, I can say over here. So now, if you look at this particular sensitivity, static sensitivity in this one, then it will be the change in the delta Q naught. So here there will be a value, and here there will be Q naught Q1 Qi comma Q naught, and here it will be Qi1 comma Qo1. So now that is now static sensitivity is nothing but the difference between these two values. That is Q0 Qo2 minus Qo1 by Qi2 minus Qi1. So with this one you can find the static sensitivity, which is nothing but the ratio of the change in the output signal to a change in the input quantity. With the slightest change in the input, how is the output being changed? That is being measured by using a sensitivity parameter. Here, as we are looking at the static characteristics, it is a static sensitivity. Now, look at this particular signal which is non-linear. This is a non-linear signal and this is a linear signal. So now, if you look at this particular non-linear signal, here you can have different sensitivities over here, measured at different points. And here it will be something like this. So like this, okay. So now here delta Q naught by Qi, delta Qi will be different. And here delta Q naught by delta Qi, and here delta Q naught by delta Qi. So once we measure, see here in terms of linear signals, then definitely we will be having only one delta Q naught by delta Qi, whereas in nonlinear signals we will be having some different sensitivity values will be there over the range of this particular signal over here. So now inverse sensitivity is one of the other characteristics, static characteristics, which is nothing but the inverse of the particular sensitivity value, static sensitivity value, which is previously in sensitivity is nothing but the difference in between the output, change in the output to the change in the input. Whereas here the change in the input to the changing the output is nothing but the infinitesimal sensitivity. By using this characteristics also, we can find whether the particular instrument is desirable or not. So what we intend in a particular instrument is it has to be very, very sensitive to the input changes. So whenever there is a change in the input, the particular output should also change. That is our intention. That is why we want this particular sensitivity characteristics to be very, very high, and this is a desirable quality of a particular static of any instrument over there. Next one is a linearity. It can be defined as a maximum deviation of an output reading from the good fit straight line. So now here linearity is nothing but here this is the full scale value that can be measured, and this is the full scale value in this case, and here there is a full scale value. Now here looking at the signals, first one is a linear signal, second one is, and third one is or nothing but a non-linear signals. It can be defined as a maximum deviation of an output reading from the good fit of a straight line. That is, percentage linearity is given by maximum deviation by full scale deflection into 100. So here how much deviation is being happening with respect to the linear line. This is a straight line. With respect to the straight line, how much is the variation of the particular signal? That is nothing but the maximum deviation and divided by the full scale value. So that gives a percentage linearity. So compared to any straight line, how much is the variation is there in a particular measurement process, that is given by this particular linearity characteristics. Next one is the threshold value. It is defined as the maximum input quantity that is necessary to cause a detectable change in the output of the signal from a zero indication. Now here after a certain threshold, the value is being increased. Now say for example, let us consider a forward bias characteristics. In EDC, we have already studied this one. So forward bias characteristics of a diode. Now, when we look at this particular any diode, whether it is a silicon diode or any germanium diode, it will be having a particular threshold voltage after which the particular diode starts operating. Now, if we look at the germanium diode, its value will be threshold value is around 0.3 volts, and silicon diode around value 0.7 volts. Only when this particular value is reached, then only the diode starts operating. Whether it is whether it is increasing here with respect to the input, whether it is increasing or not, it depends upon whether the particular input has reached this particular 0.3 volts or 0.7 volts or not. Only after reaching this particular value, the particular output will be increasing with respect to the input. So here the threshold is a minimum input quantity that is necessary to cause a detectable change in the output signal from the zero indication. So this threshold is also very, very important when we look at a particular instrument. That is, at which point the particular instrument starts to detect a particular change or change its values over there. Next, moving on to the dynamic characteristics. That is the characteristics of the instrument which are used to measure the quantities or parameters that vary very quickly with respect to time are called dynamic characteristics. And these are the list of the dynamic characteristics which are speed of response, fidelity, lag and dynamic error. Here speed of response and fidelity are desirable characteristics, whereas lag and dynamic error are undesirable for us. So once we look at any particular instrument, what we want is the speed of response has to be very, very high for the particular instrument. That is, here, as soon as there is a change in a measurement process, that has to be reflected in the particular instrument. That is nothing but the speed of response. So the other one is here. A system is said to be in a transient state when a process variable or variables have been changed and the system has not yet reached a steady state. If the measurements are made after the system settles to steady state conditions, then we study the static characteristics of the system. That is nothing but the transient response of the system is not important. So now here, if we say that system settles at a steady state condition after some time, then definitely the system can be said to be a static in nature. Then at that time, the transient response will not be important. But in the cases where it doesn't settle down, at that time, the dynamic characteristics are very, very important. So now, the dynamic characteristics of a measuring instrument refer to the change where the measured variable changes rapidly. So here, first one is the speed of the response. The speed at which the instrument responds whenever there is any change in the quantity to be measured is called the speed of response. It indicates how fast is the particular instrument to the like with the changes in the input, like how fast the readings are being changed in the particular instrument. That is given by speed of response. Response time is defined as the time required by the instrument to settle to its final steady state position after the application of the input. Sometimes the speed of response might be less. So at that time, the response time gives the information to us. That is like how much time it is taking in order to settle the particular value. So now once we have done many experiments, we'll be doing many experiments in our labs. So here once we change some values, if we look at any multimeter or any digital voltmeter or any DC meter or ammeter or voltmeters here, before settling to a particular points, see 991 is there for example. Before settling to these points, it might be fluctuating. Initially, these values might be fluctuating. Now, the time taken after the change of the particular input, the particular changes in the particular circuit, and the time which is taking to settle the particular value, that is to be 3.99 volts, 991 volts, that particular time can be given by this particular response time. That is the time required by the instrument to settle to its final steady state position. That is the final value which is measured by this particular instrument. And next one is the lag. The amount of delay present in the response of an instrument whenever there is a change in the quantity to be measured is called measuring lag. It is also called as lag. Lag means like how much time, how much delay it is taking in order to make changes in the particular reading process. So lag is of two types, that is a retardation type and time delay type. So in the retardation type, the response of the instrument begins immediately after a change in the measurement has occurred. Whenever there is a change occurs, then the particular change will be seen in the measure. Then time delay type, the response of the instrument begins after a dead time. After a very long duration only, the particular output will be settling to a particular value in the time delay type. Next is the fidelity characteristic. The degree to which an instrument indicates changes in the measured quantity without any dynamic error is known as the fidelity. Without any error means measured value and the true value will be same. In at that time we can say the particular instrument has very good fidelity over there. So there is no error means then definitely whatever the intended value we want to measure, that is being measured by the particular instrument. The degree to which a measurement system is capable of faithfully reproducing the changes in input without any dynamic error is known as the fidelity. Next one is, final one is the dynamic error. Dynamic error is the algebraic difference between the indicated value of a measurand and its true value at any instant when the measurand is a function of time. So here basically it is the difference between the measured value and the true value. But this error is with respect to the time. So the measured value, that is AM of t minus AT of t, will be the dynamic error value. It represents a measure of the inability of a system to adequately reproduce the amplitude of the input signal for a particular input frequency. That is, with a change in the time, definitely there will be a change in the measured values and the true values, and the difference between these two things over a period of time is nothing but a dynamic error. So with this, we have completed the performance characteristics of an instrument, that is complete static characteristics as well as dynamic characteristics. So in the next class, let us discuss about the PMMC meter moment.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.